Daf Yomi, Tractate, Bava, Batra, page 93b, top of the page. Tzadik, Gimel Amid Beis, with the words No Say Lo Demei Zera. The seller gives back to the buyer the value of the seeds. Amru lo harbe lo chinoso ledvar machirim, since the majority of flax seeds are sold are for planting. It is a mistaken transaction. They said to him, to Rabbi Yossi, many, meaning a majority of people purchase flax seeds for purposes other than planting. Consequently, the sale stands. Mantenai Ilem Rabbi Yossi v'amru lo travayu basar ruba ozli. The Gemara asks, who are the Tanaim in Israita who have a dispute? It parallels the dispute between Rav and Shmuel. If we say that they are Rabbi Yossi and the opinion cited as they say to him, that is incorrect, as both of them hold that one follows the majority in monetary matters. Their dispute concerns only which majority to follow. One sage, meaning the opinion cited as they said to him, follows the majority of people making purchases. And one sage, meaning Rav Yossi, follows the majority of the volume of seeds that are sold overall. The disparity arises because the majority of sales are each made with a relatively small quantity of seeds that are purchased for purposes other than planting. The minority of sales involve large quantities of seeds that are purchased for planting. This means that the majority of the seeds sold overall are purchased for planting, but the majority of people purchasing seeds to do so for purposes other than planting. Ella itanakama v'Rav Yossi itanakama v'amru lo. Rather, the dispute that parallels the dispute between Rav and Shmuel is either the dispute between the first Tana and Rabbi Yossi, or the dispute between the first Tana and the opinion cited as they said to him. Tanu Rabbanan, the sages taught, Mahu nosin lo, demei zera v'lo hotza, v'yeshoimrim afrito. The sages taught in a Braita, when the seller bears financial responsibility for selling seeds that did not sprout, what is he liable to give the buyer? He is liable to give him only the value of the seeds themselves, but not the expenses that the buyer incurred in planting them, meaning the hire of laborers. For example, the hire of laborers. And some say he is liable to give him even the expenses that the buyer incurred. Man Yehoshua, Rav Chizda, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel he. The Gemara asks, who is the Tana whose opinion is cited as some say? Rav Chizda said that it is Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Hi Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Ilem Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Lebas Nisan Ditnan, Hamoicha Pesach Averoy Zorono Itzimcho, Itzimechu, Efilo Zerapishton, Enochaya Bachayuson. The Gemara clarifies from which statement the Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is apparent that he holds the seller is liable for the buyer's expenses. One possibility is if we say that the statement in question is that of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel in the Mishnah, as we learned in the Mishnah, one who sells to another produce that is sometimes purchased for consumption and sometimes for planting, and the buyer planted it and it did not sprout, and even if it had sold flax seeds, which are only occasionally eaten, the seller does not bear financial responsibility for them. The Gemara extrapolates by inference. This Tana holds that he had sold seeds for garden plants, which are not eaten at all. Then the seller bears financial responsibility to compensate the buyer for them. A Mosefo. Say the Seifo, meaning the Gemara continues, but accordingly, say the latter clause of the Mishnah. Say the latter clause. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Saroni, Gina, Sheino Nechalin, Chayiv, Ba'achriutan. Tanakama, Amihachi Kamar. Is that a bishtan who they no Chayiv, Ba'achriutan, or Saroni, Gina, Sheino Nechalin, Chayiv, Ba'achriutan? Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says if he had sold seeds for garden plants, which are not eaten at all, then the seller bears financial responsibility for them, the Gemara asks. But according to the inference made from the first clause, the first Tana is also saying this, as he holds that it is only for the sale of flax seeds that the seller does not bear financial responsibility to compensate the buyer for them. But with regard to the sale of seeds for garden plants, which are not eaten at all, the seller bears financial responsibility for them. What then is the dispute between the first Tana and Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel? Elalav, Hotza'a Ika binayu. Mar Sofer Nemezera, Umar Sofer Avito. The Gemara therefore suggests, rather, is it not that the difference between them is whether the seller is liable for the buyer's expenses? One sage, meaning the first Tana, holds that the seller is liable only for the value of the seeds, and the other sage, meaning Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, holds that the seller is liable even for the buyer's expenses. Mimai Dilma Ipcha Haloi Kashya Kol Tanabaskelet to Bimilsakasi Ka'ati. It's like Kathy. Maybe we should call Kathy. This is part of the Ka'ati. It's Kathy. Exactly. It's what I call interlingual gematriatic Ka'ati. Either 511 or 512. Abashi 45. Anyway, the Gemara asks, from where is it apparent? You know what, I'll call Kathy. It's also K, which is Thursday, yeah. The Gemara asks, from where is it apparent that it is Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel who hold that the seller is liable for the expenses? Perhaps it is the opposite, meaning it is the first Tana who holds that the seller is liable for the expenses, and Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel holds that he is liable only for the value of the seeds. The Gemara rejects the suggestion. This is not difficult, because the Tana side it always comes to add something. Kol Tana Basra that Tupuye Miltakaiti. The ruling of the first Tana not to detract from Dilma, but maybe Wilmatuma. No, that's my own thing. Dilma Wilmatuma Kol Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Kula. The Dilma Kula Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel he v'chasore b'echsara v'chachitani. המועך ביחד חבר וזרנו לסימכו אפילו זרו פשטון אינו חייב אחריותן כזרו הנה גינה שאין אנחנו יכולים חייב באחריותן דיבר רבן שמעון בן גמליאל שרבן שמעון בן גמליאל אומר זרע פשטון הוא אינו חייב באחריותן זרע נגינה שאין יכולים חייב באחריותן לי. The Gemara suggests, but perhaps all of the Mishnah is stating the opinion of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, and the Mishnah is complete. And this is what it is teaching with regard to one who sells produce in other Detroit. One who sells produce in other that is sometimes purchased for eating and sometimes for planting. Mr. Parnell said planting. And why are you talking? And the buyer planted it and did not sprout, and even it had also had flax seeds, which are only occasionally eaten. The seller does not bear financial responsibility for them, but if he sold seeds for garden plants, which are not eaten at all, the seller bears the financial responsibility for them. This is the statement of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Gamliel 114 says that it is only for the sale of flax seeds that the seller does not bear financial responsibility to compensate the buyer for them. But by inference, the sale of seeds for garden plants which are not eaten at all, the seller bears financial responsibility for them. If anyone heard the past 5 minutes and they're here, I strongly ask, kindly, I'm not going to say beg, but I'm saying kindly, would love to hear a comment if you made it this far to, let's see, hold on here, 9 minutes and 55 seconds in here. If you were listening to the past 5 minutes, including right now, the past, 3-4 minutes, you made it this far, please like, share, subscribe, smash that like button. No, don't smash the like button. I don't know why people say it. I don't say it. But please comment, I'd love to. It'd be great. Shimon ben Gamliel says that it is only for the sale of flaxseed that the seller does not bear punishment. And if you're a woman my age, I think you're my soulmate. I think we're soulmates. If you listen this far, and you are a woman my age, I think we're soulmates. And you're Jewish, I think we're soulmates. Shimon ben Gamliel says that it is only for the sale of flax seeds that the seller does not bear financial responsibility to compensate the buyer for them, but by inference, the sale of the seeds, and you find it interesting. To compensate the buyer for them, but by inference, the sale of seeds for garden plants, which are not eaten at all, the seller bears financial responsibility for them. Interpreted in this way, there is no evidence from the Mishnah, but that Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel holds that the seller is liable for the expenses. Elahar b'Shimon ben Gamliel detanya molechitin latochoin veloy lesoson letaton. Sassen letaton. Wow. We're having some inter-Ashkenaz and Sephardic crossing of wires there. Vasen subin oim wursen kemach lenachtoim ve'afilu pas nipulin behemolit bach. Rather, the statement in question, the statement of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, as it is taught in the Braita to Sefta Bava Kama 10:9, in a case of one who brought wheat to a miller to grind. Miller is Mizmor Liyom Revi'i and Liyom Rishon, to grind, and the miller did not wet the grain sufficiently for the grinding to be performed effectively. As a result, he converted the grain into bran or coarse bran. Or in a case of one who gave flour to the baker, not Bob Barker, and the baker made it, or could be Bob Barker if he was a baker, and made it into a bread that is underbaked and tends to crumble. Or if one gave an animal to a butcher, and the butcher killed it in a way that rendered it an unslaughtered animal carcass in the Vila, or in all cases, the worker is liable because he is like a paid bailee. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, noten lo demei boshto, udemei boshto zochro, v'chein haya Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer. Minhag gadol haya b'Yerushalayim. Hamos resud lechaver v'kelkala, noten lo demei boshto, udemei boshto orcho. The Brisa continues. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says the owner had invited guests to eat the food, and due to the worker's actions, he was unable to serve them. Then the worker must give him compensation for his humiliation and compensation for the humiliation of his guests. And similarly, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel would say there was a great custom in Jerusalem that if one gives raw materials for a meal to another to prepare the meal for him, and that person spoils it, that person gives the former compensation for his humiliation and compensation for the humiliation of the guests. Od minhag gadol haya Yerushalayim, ma paparus al gabe Pesach, kol zman shema paparus orchin nichnasin nistalka, hama pe'enochin nichnasin. The Braita continues. Another great custom that was followed in Jerusalem was that when one made a feast, there would be a cloth spread over the entrance to the hall. As long as the cloth was spread, the guests would enter, as the presence of the cloth indicated that there was food for more guests. When the cloth was removed, the guests would not enter anymore. And that's the end of that, new Mishnah. And we're just about done with this Amud. This is one of those ones that will go down into the realms of history, the realms. Mishnah, new Mishnah. Mocher peres chaveroi. Hareis mekabel olav roy tinoifes l'sol te'eni mekabel olav. Eser metulaos lamea martev shel yain mekabel olav eser kosos lamea. Kanim bisharon mekabel olav eser pita sos lamea. When selling a significant quantity of produce or a number of items, there is a possibility that there will be a certain proportion of impurities in it, or that some of the product will be of substandard quality. The Mishnah delineates what proportion is considered acceptable for which a buyer may not demand compensation with regard to one who sells produce, in other words, grain to another. This buyer accepts upon himself that up to a quarter kav of impurities may be present in each of produce purchased. When purchasing figs, he accepts upon himself that up to 10 infested figs may be present in each 100 figs purchased. When purchasing a cellar containing barrels of wine, he accepts upon himself that up to 10 barrels of souring wine may be present in each 100 barrels purchased. When purchasing jugs of wine in the Sharon region, he accepts upon himself that up to 10 inferior quality jugs of wine may be present in each 100 jugs purchased. Gemara, the Talmud says, Tani Rav Katina, Kathy and Katrina. I'm getting that vibe here. Tani Rav Katina, Ilu Katrina. Rova kitnis lasa'a ve'afrurit lo ve'amar Rabbi Barchia kutosfa'a mishmei derabba bore tzaror megarono shel chayero. Rav Katina taught, when the Mishnah states that a buyer accepts upon himself that a quarter kav of impurities per sa'ah may be present, that means only that he accepts upon himself the presence of a quarter kav of legumes, beans, whatever. But he does not accept upon himself the presence of a quarter kav of dirt. Gemara asks, and is it so that the buyer does not also accept upon himself that some quantity of dirt may be present in that produce? But doesn't Rabba Bar Chia Ketosva'a say Chia Ketosva'a? I like it. Say in the name of Rabba, one who picks out a pebble from the wheat of another's threshing floor. ... Stay tuned! Same bat time, same bat channel. No. It's always a different time. But whatever. Stay tuned for the next talk.